welcome to the Annanite Breakout Room. My name is Harold Hendricks, and our co-host Jennifer Roberts is with us. Just before we begin, I just want to say that I appreciate this opportunity, although I'm not sure why I was chosen to host this. I'm probably the least informed of all of Annanite's descendants, but I'll try to do a little bit here of explanation, and hopefully we'll have some discussion. So I'm going to share my screen so you don't have to see me anymore. Okay, hopefully you can see the PowerPoint with Annanite's photo on it. Annanite, of course, the daughter of Joseph and Polly, who married freeborn DeMille and had 7 children. I descend from Adelia DeMille, who John Pritchard Squire Sr. and then Jr. And then my grandmother, Anna Leona Squire, my mother, Betty Ann Pruse. Are you there? Do you have access to your microphone? Can you speak to us?
I'm here. Hello, okay. Everyone.
There we go. Excellent.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm new to this reunion as well, and just excited to learn more about the Knights and connect with all of you. I am Joseph and Polly are my 5th great grandparents, and I come through their son Oliver. And yes, that's enough. We live in Highland, Utah, and I'm just really excited to learn more and get connected with all of you. So I hope that helps.
Very good, thank you. Great. So we thought we would start out a little bit with just a brief biography, especially in case there's anyone who is just not familiar with Anna's history. She was born in Marlborough, Windham County, Vermont, March 5th, 1804. So a year earlier than Joseph Smith, the 4th of 7 children. And here is a photo. It wasn't obviously taken at the time she was born, but this is an older photo of Windham County, Vermont, one of the little towns there. In 1810, she moved to the Colesville area, which is now known as Nineveh, where her father built this wonderful home on the farm that we heard earlier in the session. And I've not had the opportunity to visit this place, but I hope that some of you have already. And it is just a marvelous story that the Glens, the painters, and the Meekums, who were not descended from Joseph, took upon themselves to purchase this land and this home, restore it, and the 15 years of effort that have gone into it is just absolutely amazing and obviously miraculous, inspired by a love for the history of the church and also the history of Joseph Knight and the Colesville branch, which is our family. Anna married freeborn DeMille when she was only 15, March 11th, 1819. He was 24 at the time. They journeyed and traveled with the saints. They left that beautiful area in New York after being baptized. And an interesting fact is that Anna was baptized the same time as Emma was. You probably have heard the story of how the baptismal pond that they had created had been vandalized by those who were against the church. And so they had to postpone the baptism a little later time, and that's when Anna and Smith and others were baptized. As was mentioned earlier, through the next 16 years, they left home after home. She participated in many of the historical events of the establishment of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and followed first to Ohio, where they established themselves on Lehman Copley's farm for a brief moment until he apostatized, and then they moved on to Independence, where they became some of the first to enter Zion. Then followed again through the persecutions through Illinois, and then eventually to Utah. They finally settled in Manti and lived there, where Anna died at the age of 74. There's a photo. I think it's a wonderful picture of her. You can learn more about Anna if you're not already familiar. But there is a portrayal by Miriam Music Hawkins. It was twice in the 2012 and the 2014 reunion. There was a video. It's not perfect quality, but it does give her portrayal of Anna Knight. So if you're interested in that, you can search for that on YouTube under Anna Knight portrayal. And also there's a history of Freeborn Anna by Wendy DeMille Anderson. I don't know if Wendy's on with us today. That's under the text of Muriel's portrayal under Memories of Home Search. Okay, we probably are possibly too large group to introduce themselves, but we'll do as much as we can. We want to see who we are, talk to our cousins. Most of us probably haven't met each other recently, maybe perhaps at a former reunion. Some of us, though, are the first reunion we've ever been to, so we'd like to get to know you as much as we can. So we'll go through and see if we can see how many introductions we can get through. And you're welcome to use the chat box to chat with us or to chat privately with others on the group while we're talking. So I'll stop sharing the screen now. If you're interested in participating and sharing with us who you are and a little bit about family connections. So Kelly Hunsaker. Yeah, Kelly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kelly Hunsaker. I live near Charlottesville, Virginia. I come through Adelia DeMille, and then Eliza Roxy Squire, and Newell Wingate, and Cheryl Wingate is my mother. This is the first reunion I've attended, so it's kind of fun to have it virtual because I couldn't get to Utah for that. It's fun to be here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, Ruth. You can unmute. There we go. Why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Okay. Before I introduce myself, for those of you who are still looking for how to raise your hand, if you go down to the participants box and click on it, and then you should see on the top right a place where it says raise hand, yes, no, and you can click on that. So I'm sure that at least my parents are still looking for how to find it. So they probably aren't the only people.
Go ahead. Thank you for helping.
You're welcome. My name is Ruth Checketts, and my parents are on here, elder and sister Checketts, they're listed on there. But my father, McKay Checketts, is the line that goes up, and my aunt is also on here, Jolene Checketts Farnsworth. And thanks to my Aunt Jolene, I have received the Knight family emails for many years now. And like Kelly said, I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm not going to fly to Utah for one day reunion, as awesome as it would be. And so I was excited that it was virtual this year. I'm descended through all of DeMille and down through that line to the Checketts, but I'm excited to be here and to learn more about the Knight family and to meet more of you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Ken Beesford and Carrie Meldrum, are you available to?
Yes, we're here.
Yes,
We'll let Carrie talk. She's the one that wanted to talk.
yeah, that's me. My name is Carrie Meldrum. I'm from Orem, Utah. I had the opportunity of going back in 2016 to the farm home, and it was amazing. It really touched my heart to know I'm really here. And the experience that I had was very, very moving. Our tour guide was Kate Godfrey, and he had me come to the porch and he said, well, Carrie Meldrum will be the first one going through the door. And that just really warmed my heart. I've always wanted to be there, so I saved my money to go. And it was the most wonderful experience that I could ever have. If anyone wants to go, just go.
And I'm Ken Gatesford, and I live in West Jordan, Utah. And I'm Carrie's older brother. And we do come through Adelia. But we're happy to be here. It's an exciting thing that we can join this way.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And that's wonderful you're able to visit the home.
Yes.
Karen Anderson Garf, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I live in Salt Lake City. I'm descended from Mariah DeMille, who was Anna's daughter, who married Daniel Buckley Funk. And then through Emirette Funk and Charles Musich, down to Bertha Musich, my great-grandmother, no, my grandmother was Bertha Musich. So they all grew up in Manti. And I'm glad to be here. And I'm amazed that I can do this technology at 70 years old, but here I am.
Isn't it wonderful, though, that we have such things?
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't see any other hands raised that want to introduce themselves. If you weren't able to figure out how to make your raise your hand.
Krista has hers raised.
Oh, yeah, Krista, okay. Can you? Oh,
Okay, can you hear me?
yes, there we go.
Awesome. My name is Krista Pace, and I live in West Jordan, Utah as well. And I am descended from Anna's daughter, Mariah DeMille, who also married Daniel Buckley Funk. I think the person right before me said that as well. We come through Ezra Knight Funk and his daughter, Olive. So it's kind of fun. It's fun to meet everybody. I like Carrie, was able to go back to the Knight family farm in Nineveh back in 2018. And I was there with my mom and my daughters, and we were able to go up into the room where Anna and Polly, I'm actually descended from both lines, Anna and Polly. And so it was really fun to be in that room where they would sleep and where they probably looked out the window as the mobs were coming, and to feel part of the family and realize how that they're still part of us, that there's some of them in us. And, you know, as we are all trying to be faithful and make it back to Zion. So it's just really fun to be with everybody today.
Thank you very much. Very good. It is good to be with everyone, and it's been certainly inspiring to hear again the stories and realize what a great family that we're part of. Dan, go ahead and introduce yourself to.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I haven't tried this laptop before with sound and Zoom. My brother Robert already introduced himself during the previous session, I believe. He and I and our siblings.
Oh, we lost your audio there. You were there? See if we can get
All right, is it back?
You're back now. Very good, thanks.
So I descend through Emirat and Daniel Buckley Funk. And let's see, or Mariah, yeah, Mariah. And then from Mariah through Emirat, who married Charles Musage, and their daughter, Mariah, who went by Marie throughout her life, married Henry Lawrence Barton. And my mother, June Barton Bartholomew, put together a book on the Musages and the Funks that some of you are familiar with. And that is available. Not only I have a few copies, but also it's available as one of the family search books. So if you search for under June Barton Bartholomew or under just Musage Funk book or something like that, you should be able to find that. I'll post to the Facebook site of the Knight family for, I'll put a link to that. Actually, my brother made available a link to Google Drive that's also a good source for that. I'll post those to the site. I live in Orem, Utah, and have a couple of kids, but actually all the straight maternal descendants from Anna and Polly carry the mitochondrial DNA of Polly Peck Knight. And so the women descendants can pass it on, and we male descendants have it, but we do not pass it on. And that's part of the part of the DNA that is not in the, let's see, it's non-nuclear. It's a separate part of each cell, and the mitochondrial DNA in each cell is said to regulate the energy metabolism within the cell. So maybe that gives us the energy that Polly Peck Knight had in getting to Zion, and even though she was failing, she was able to be there for the dedication of the land and the dedication of the temple. And then she died on the 6th or 7th when somebody, so you see both dates for death dates for her. And Joseph Smith, close to the cottage or cabin of the convert family that was hosting a lot of those people as they arrived in there by boat, or Joseph Smith, who arrived there by land with his party. So it was fun to find just a little bit more about where she was buried, and I did post that to the Knight Facebook page.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your post and giving us that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Anyone else wishing to introduce themselves? Perhaps I'm not seeing all the hands being raised. If
David Anderson is raising his actual hand.
oh, there we go. Let's find David in my list here. Go ahead, David. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself, I think. There you are. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I unmuted it. Yes.
Oh, okay. I can't see myself, but that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm kind of tracing down because my distant cousin here is Dan. I'm looking straight at him, right? Hi, Dan. Anyway, Karen is my sister who also talked, and we grew up in Los Angeles. We're kind of, as the music book said, we were the orphans that left Utah and established ourselves in Los Angeles to find the movie stars and plaster their houses. So we're here, so we come right down. I didn't realize, and I'm a former biology teacher, but I didn't realize that Dan told me something, that I have the mitochondrial, the cytoplasm, if you will, coming down the maternal matriarchal side all the way from Polly Knight. So I had no idea. So I'm excited because maybe I'm better than I think I am. Anyway, I just want to say hi. We're down here in Los Angeles, and Dan's mother's book was a real inspiration and a testimony builder for me to just give information about many relatives that I had no idea who existed, because my mother on both sides of the family had 50 on my mom's side, on her mom's side, and that would be Bertha Musich, and 50 on her dad's side. So 100 first cousins, of which I only knew maybe 5 or 6, or maybe 10 at the most. Anyway, I won't take any more time, but thankful to be here and hear the great stories.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to have you with us. Hey, anyone else raising their hand physically or virtually?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. My name is Eldon Jensen, and I married into the Knight family. But then as I started to look through the pictures, I found these 2 DeMilles among my relatives. And I pointed to my wife and said, "Hey, aren't those yours?" And she says, "Well, probably." And so there was an Adelinda DeMille, and there was I hate it when I can't remember stuff immediately, and everything else. So I started to look to see how many common relatives my wife and I had. And there were a whole ton of them. In fact, all my great-grandmother Marilla Terry's, half of her descendants are also all Knight descendants, particularly Anna, because Crawford married a Gifford, and Sarah Terry married a Gifford. And then I found out there was a Marie Terry that was a niece to Marilla Terry that also married into the Funks. And so then we started to track all of them, and I think there's somebody on here named McGee, and I think I've seen that name associated with it. And another one, you got a Jolene C. Farnsworth, I'm going to assume, and I would like to ask her if she's through Philo Taylor Farnsworth, or if she's through Stephen Martindale Farnsworth. And then we got Krista Pace, I see there, and I believe she's LaRue's granddaughter. You can shake your head and I can see. So they belong, to my wife, but my wife really didn't know all the stories. She said, "Well, it seems like the story that came down through her father was they were present at the early days of the church," and that was about all she was ever told. And so I've read the book now and everything else, and I wondered how often Smiths married Knight descendants, and I could only find one living one and there one dead one, but I don't know anybody else, because there needs to be some other way to hunt that down. But I found that pretty fascinating. But Edie, for instance, she's also a Farnsworth descendant, and so there's these connections that are across the board. I have an uncle named Thad Millett Nebaker. Well, he's passed away, but he's also a DeMille millet combination, Beal too. And anyway, he married my father's sister. So there are numerous ties there, but I found it kind of fascinating the lack of ties to the Smiths. And there may be some more ties to the Youngs, but I haven't found those yet. But anyway, I'm giving you a quick rundown. I probably talked too long anyway, but it has been interesting to me to try to hunt down, you know, the number of times and interconnections. I noticed there's a Hardy on there too. I wondered if he belongs to the Samuel Brocklebank Hardy. I think I got the first name. Brocklebank's the middle name, and he might be a descendant there. And some others are tied to those particular Hardys. But anyway, thank you, and that's my chat for the moment.
Thank you, Dan. That shows quite a lot of research you've been doing. Jolene, I think you want to respond.
Since I'm disabled.
Oh,
I can't see your picture.
We can hear you. Do you want us to see you?
You were unmuted. Now you're muted.
Oh, Jolene, yeah, you try unmuting again.
Now I'm mute.
No,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay. I'm Jolene Checkett-Farnsworth. Ruth introduced herself, and I'm the older aunt that has kept her informed. And I've gone to lots of these reunions, but in person, not this way. But I think this is great because of health now, I can't travel like I used to. And we come down through Anna and then down into Oliver in that way. But what I was going to answer was the question. I am a Farnsworth now through marriage, and my husband was related to Philo T. Farnsworth, who had 20 sons and 10 daughters, and those 20 sons went everywhere, and some of them came up into the Uinta Basin where I live in Duchesne, and they settled the upper country up in Mountain Home area. And so there's a lot of Farnsworths out here in the basin. If I run into a Farnsworth, I'm pretty sure we're related. So I hope that answers the question.
Yep. Very good. Thank you for responding.
Thank you.
So this is Larry McGee. Eldon mentioned my name, and yeah, I come from Marilla also, and through my grandmother was Elsie Gifford, who married Ross McGee. So that's how we connect into the Knight family, through the Giffords.
Yeah, thank you. I thought there might be quite a few of those. So anyway, it was interesting that, you know, we're related too, but now our children are definitely intertwined.
Yeah, and yeah, it happens multiple times that way. I had one of the introductory videos they showed in the earlier session, and it showed my dad's family. So I think I'm the only one online from that end, but he has like 60 people. So imagine there's 30 people online here. That probably represents 2,000 people.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, anyone else? You're welcome to jump right in if you'd like.
I'm going to talk with my mother and father won't. This is
Okay.
Rachel. I'm Ruth's sister. And we are a Knight Smith line, but it's just barely through my parents who are right there, elder and sister Checkett. My mother is a Smith line, and then my father's through the Knight line. So I don't know if that's one of your lines you found or if you wanted to add that to your list, Eldon.
Yeah, I'll try to add that to my list. Okay, so you're through Hiram?
No, we're back through, hold on now. Silas, there you go. Silas, right?
Yes.
Philo Farnsworth?
No, Silas.
Silas is a
Silas
brother
Smith.
to Joseph Sr.
Okay.
Yeah. So not through the Joseph Smith line, through the
right
Silas Joseph Sr.'s brother.
Okay. All right.
Great, thank you. Is it Jana? Jana Ames, your hand's up. Go ahead and I'll unmute you. You ready? If you'd like to speak to us, Jana Ames.
Yes, I'm here.
Very good.
So yes, I wanted to have this opportunity to share also. My husband and I attended the reunion 2 years ago. I've unfortunately had so many of my family leave the church, and the Lord led me to a little store in Beaver, Utah 2 years ago, and I met one of my ancestors who I didn't even know, and she was wearing a Knight t-shirt, and my husband said, she has a t-shirt that says Joseph Knight and Polly Peck family reunion, which happened to be the next week. So we attended, and that led to us signing up and being docents later on in the year of 2018 at the Knight home. And I come through Anna, and then her youngest daughter, Lavina Esther DeMille, who married John Beale. And then they had a son, Gardner Asa Beale, who married Eva Geneve Funk. So I also come through the Funks through an Eva Geneve Funk. And then their daughter was Mary Esther Beale. She married Seth Durfee. Durfees are other lines that come through. He was a martyr for the church in Nauvoo. And then Lucille Thompson, Durfee Thompson is my grandmother, and then my father and myself. So they were sent on a last settling mission, Mary Esther Beale and Seth Durfee, to settle the Bighorn Basin of Wyoming. So that's where that line comes through. But we had the opportunity to be docents at the Joseph Knight home. We stayed in the Stoll home. And it was such an enlightening and an exciting experience as we were preparing and learning the stories. I was reading the front plaque that had the original Colesville branch, and the third name down was named Jared Carter, and then his wife was Lydia Ames Carter. Well, I'm Jana Ames, and we thought we were going for my family, the Knights, and I said to my husband, you need to find out who Lydia Ames Carter is. And come to find out that her husband then baptized her brother, Ira Ames, who is my husband's first member of the church in our family. So we can imagine that both his family and my family joined in that beautiful little branch there as they met in the Knight home in that little bedroom first with the pews, and then later in the big barn where the first miracle happened with Polly Peck, of course, the evil spirit being cast out of Newell, just being there and seeing those sights and feeling those feelings, and not so much has changed since then. And it was really bolstering to our testimonies to be a part of that and feel the DNA, yes, that's still in the air there, and the strengthening of our testimonies. And though in these latter days where many of our family members are being so tested and so tried, and they may not be keeping their covenants right now, those of us who hold on to our covenants will eventually be able to be saviors on Mount Zion, even for our family members who have left, and I just want to believe temporarily. They're temporarily disconnected. My husband and I have since had the opportunity, we're service missionaries for church family services in the addiction recovery program here in Loveland, Colorado in our stake. And then also we serve in the Fort Collins Temple as ordinance workers. And it's just wonderful to have the blood of the Knight family running through our veins and feeling that fire and that passion and love for the prophet Joseph Smith, for the restoration of the church. And I just can never talk about it or bear testimony without that fire igniting and burning even hotter and with more force through my veins as I share it with others. So I do bear testimony that this church is true and that our ancestor Joseph Knight and Polly through the greatest of sacrifices and really even at times physical torture and financial distress as they helped the prophet hire attorneys, and they're in Colesville in the Broome County just after baptisms, and then over into the Shenango County as he crossed the lines. There's all those stories. I just want to join my devotion and allegiance to these great people and all of you. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much for that testimony. That was very powerful. Appreciate that. And that's wonderful that you had such experience to be there. Anyone else wish to share with us testimony or story or questions?
I can ask Krista Pace another question. Is the Pace, I assume your husband's through as James Pace Jr., and Loving, I think, was his mother. James Pace Sr. was killed in the War of 1812, and he was died in 1814. Am I correct on that, or do you know?
I do know he does come through James Pace. I'm not sure what his wife's name was. I'm looking that up right now.
That'd be James Pace Sr.'s wife. She came and joined the church. James Pace Jr. is where most of the Paces that I run across are all, and when I see that name, so that's usually who I associate it with. But I don't know in all cases. Pace is a more common name. If you get a few uncommon names like Musage or Unthank or some others like that, then they're much easier to track. Bringhurst is easy to track on me. Ogilvy is easy to track on me too. So, but a lot of the ones in a lot of the Farnsworths in Utah or in the surrounding areas are all either from Philo or from Stephen. So, anyway, I did. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. My computer is just slow, so I'll let you know in the chat as soon as I find out.
Okay, that's why I was going to have some of these things with me when I came through, but my computer has been terrible for about 3 or 4 weeks, and it's given me the 40, not found, can't find Google, can't find anything. So I've had a lot of problems that way. So that's created some difficulty for me to track some things. So anyway, I was trying to, by the way, Adlinda DeMille married a Hall, Arthur Wright Hall, and Charles Merrill Hall married, now I just blanked it again. She was once historian for the DeMille family.
Mm-hmm.
What? I can't think of. Oh well, I'll pipe it in when it finally pops back in.
Well, I'd like to ask some questions. First of all, the descendants of Mariah, is there a Mariah DeMille family organization or group, a reunion? Do you have a reunion at that level, or are they, if there are any descendants?
Well, that would be the Funk line.
Funk line,
and you'd have to probably go to the Bartholomew's, probably carry more information on that. Like I said, my father-in-law was descended there, and he was a cousin to Krista's grandmother. And like I said, he wasn't really terribly big at the time. They even let us know what all went on. So,
how about Orpha? Any activity there? Do we have anyone descended from Orpha? Is there any reunion activity or something we can tie into there? Laura Ann? Oliver, Adelia, not much that I know of there through the Squires, Elias or Lavina. Just wondering if there were other activities that we might want to be aware of. Groups getting together or Facebook pages or things we'd like to tie into with the general organization. If not, anybody else have any?
I finally popped in. It was Annabelle DeMille Hall. She married Charles Merrill Hall, my great uncle, and she was the one who was the historian for the Oliver DeMille group, I believe. And she was Oscar was her father, and then his father was Oliver. But interesting to note for those who like to study genealogy, take a look at her pedigree. She was the product of double first cousins marrying each other, which is genetically not the safest thing to do in the world. My mother's cousin, Marie Hall Liston, lived to be like 98 years old and had over 200 posterity when she died, and only had lost one or two of them during that time. So there was nothing wrong with how the genetics turned out among that group. So I thought that was pretty interesting to me.
I wanted to pipe up and say, and this is Robert, that my mother, June Barton Bartholomew, she was very active in family organizations, and I remember she used to talk about the Musage reunions and maybe the funk reunions, and some of these were held at what's now called Palisade Park in the area of Ephraim, Utah. And it was once called Funk's Lake. Daniel Buckley Funk traded, I guess, something to the Native Americans and got a meadow there. And he told them, Native Americans, that he was going to build a reservoir there, and they kind of laughed at him. But he found a way to get the water to, I guess, cross over a barrier, and there is a lake now there. But there's a bed and breakfast, I think, the old Musage home, and Grandpa Musage, my mother's grandpa, Charles Ernst Christian Musage, brought a linden tree from Germany and grew it there, and it became quite a landmark there. Speaking of first and second and third cousins and such, my brother Dan and I were once looking at a math model. I created on Excel, on a spreadsheet, I created a math model to determine how many first cousins and second cousins and third cousins we might have. And assuming that every generation there are 5 people who marry and have 5 children who marry and have 5 children who marry, etc. It looked like we would get 40 first cousins, 400 second cousins, 4,000 third cousins, and so 4 times a factor of 10. You keep going and going. And one of the cousins we have in the Barton, no, not Barton, the Musage line, sister, who's the primary president, general primary president. She actually is through, I can't remember if it's Bertha Musage, but anyway, so she's one of the people that could be on this, one of the descendants. But she's also through Brigham Young, I believe. So there's a young and a young link there too.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that little historical information about Funk's Lake. That's good to know. All right. let me turn to Jennifer and see if she has any questions or anything she'd like to finish up with. We have about 7 minutes left in our session. See if Jennifer there.
Well, David is raising his hand, so I think,
Oh.
David, you go first.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks to that usage book, and I've been studying like I'm going to school. Thank you, Robert. I know your brother Dan really well. And yeah, actually, it turns out that Joy Jones, who is the primary president, general primary president, she comes down the line of her mother, who would be a Musage Margreta. Margreta married a Harmon, and then one of the Harmon kids would be Joy Jones' father. I can't remember which one. So that's where that comes down. It's Margreta, one of the 8 children who was part of the Musage Funk marriage. And they actually lost one in a mining accident. The oldest boy named Charlie passed away. All this I learned by studying the book. Not that I have a great recall, but I've looked at it enough times that it's very interesting. But there was quite a few people that passed away from mining accidents back at that time. It was a tough way to live, and boy, some of the stuff was pretty bad. My wife had a grandparent who passed away in the mines in Utah. So that's just something I wanted to throw in there. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you. You're welcome. And in case you're not checking the chat, Krista says, Eldon Jensen, my husband Aaron Pace comes through James Pace and Adeline Savage, daughter of Levi Savage.
Okay. I had a question for Grant Hardy, if he's still there. I don't see his picture anymore. I wondered whether he came through that Hardy group that was down at St. George. He left down there. 3 Hardys married 3 Lambs. I have an uncle that was a Lamb descendant. I have a son-in-law that's a Hardy Lamb combination, and I have a sister-in-law that's a Hardy Lamb combination. So I wondered if he belonged to that particular Hardy group, but he'd have to answer me or check up and say.
Yeah, he's
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I come down through the Annanite to Mariah DeMille, William DeMille Funk, Anna Permilla Funk,
okay,
who married Frances Marion Jolly, and I had heard that name mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Their daughter Ingrid Jolly is my grandmother, married Ernest Verinder Hardy. And I have 2 first cousins that are online here too that have that same descendancy. I see Judy waving. But through my Hardy line, I am related to Samuel Brocklebank Hardy and Augustus Poor Hardy, St. George connection, and to Moses Franklin Farnsworth, who worked down there in the St. George Temple and then in the Manti Temple when Manti Temple was dedicated and buried there in Manti.
Yeah.
And I don't know all the DeMilles and all the Funks and all the Jollies, but I know when I go to the Manti Cemetery, we have about 30 or 40 graves there that we visit. And yes, I've been out to Funk Lake and attended a reunion out at Funk Lake years ago when I was much younger.
Okay.
So.
Moses Hardy, or Moses Farnsworth, I should say, was a younger brother, I believe, to Philo Taylor Farnsworth and Stephen Martindale Farnsworth. So yeah, they're all go to Reuben Farnsworth III.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, I know Reuben's name.
Okay.
It seems like they all intermarry and we're all related through several lines.
Yes.
I don't remember hearing about any Hardy Lambs, though. I don't think Hardy's married Lambs. Do you know, Grant?
I don't remember any Lambs either.
Okay. I found it by looking at the Samuel Brocklebank Hardy and then take the Abel Lamb, and you'll see that the 2 families had 3 that were intertwined. I found 3 Wilkersons married 3 Workmans, and the Workmans pop up all over. As I look back on people's lines, I have Workmans that are tied to the Terrys. There are Workmans that are tied to the Ogilvies. Workmans that are tied to the Hales. The Hales are nearly everywhere, and I'm surprised that they haven't popped up some of those. There's an awful lot of those descendants of Stephen and Marianne Hales. David.
Yeah, I don't want to over dominate this, but there was, if we're talking Lamb, one of the usage daughters married a Lamb, Fred Lamb, and her name was Greta Usage. So there's Lamb mixture right there. And both of them, by the way, died early in their 30s. And the kids were pretty much on their own at an early age. But that, I don't know if that has significance, because when I heard the name Lamb. So that's all I have to say.
You have to look and see whether it's Abel Lamb or not. Samuel, or I was going to say, Daniel Buckley Funk Jr. married, I believe it was Mariah Terry, and that was, like I said, a niece. And so that group, they're also Terry tied to the Knight family also. So if I hadn't mentioned that, but I'm dominated more than David has, so I've probably said enough too. Must be the teachers in us. So.
Yep. Well, we appreciate the information. That's very interesting to hear. We're about time to wrap up. I just wanted to see if Jennifer had any other thoughts. I know she would like to be interested in seeing if we wanted to continue a connection through some means. So she put something in the chat. Go ahead, Jennifer, if you want to explain what you'd like to do, or if you're interested in.
Some of you are clearly, I appreciate all of the information, way ahead of me in this game. I had a generation that had kind of was not strong in the church, and so I have only learned in the last few years a lot of this information, and have been really hungry for it. And it would be really helpful for me, all of these different lines that these different kids came through Anna. I don't know if anyone else would have any interest in this. If we as a group of these participants could share somehow the books, the links, the histories, so that we could compile it into one kind of, and maybe you don't have interest in doing that, but I'd love to at least read all the things that the people in this participant have had access to, besides you know, the Hartley book that talks about the family, but specifically Anna and Freeborn histories, to correlate that. Does anyone else have any interest in that, or would that be helpful to anyone to either on a Facebook page or in this email distribution say, here's all the links to what we have?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it might be hard. Yeah, I'm not tech savvy enough to make it happen. I'm interested, but I don't know what. I just know that the books that, mainly that one book that's been mentioned before, you know, really helped me understand. Linking, I'm at the point where I can understand some of that, but that's fine with me. Whether I can do it myself or not. So what does that mean? We give each other emails, or what do I don't understand what we're doing to get there. I hate to sound stupid, but.
Well, perhaps I could suggest we start at the Joseph Knight Family Facebook page.
Okay.
Perhaps that would be, since it's already established, and I think it would be a welcome part of the effort for the larger Knight organization to go ahead and make those links available up there. Those who are not descended from Anna wouldn't necessarily need to, you know, they'd only click on it if they were interested, but for those of us who descend from her would find that. there. So that's something that's already established.
Would you put a link on there to Anna, and so that we could go from there on the Facebook page?
Good idea.
So yesterday I added a post on the family Facebook page about the DeMille family history and genealogy. So it's a book from 1953, but it has a lot of the stories that have been gathered at that point.
Good.
And it's available at the Family Search Library digitally, so you can just use that link. It would be nice though if on the Knight family web page where they have the different subgroups. Right now, Anna says information coming. It would be nice if there were maybe a place there to link to Anna's kids. And people
Yes,
could...
Edie asked me to write something, and I did a few weeks ago, and it wasn't published in time, I guess, for the reunion. So, but
she said it was going to be announced or activated today when I mentioned it yesterday. So hopefully it'll show up soon.
You all sound like you might have more information. I gathered it probably from things that people had done before. I was just going to say, besides the Facebook page, another idea to gather some of these things, we do have all the emails of the participants in this breakout group that we could send a email, and I'd be happy to get the links and publish them. You know, if we say, you know, give me the links through this month or something, or whenever, then we could publish them all at one time, or anytime. I don't know.
Good idea.
So
Sounds good.
If you don't want to hear from me or don't want to participate, just delete. Otherwise, I would love to get the links in and see if we can facilitate that there.
Good. Okay, if you want to go ahead and put your, I don't know if you email in the chat, I'll go ahead and share my email. I'm going to share the screen. Here's my contact information.
Oh, careful.
Email and telephone number if you wish to contact me, and then I can also contact Jennifer. All right, we're about 5 minutes over our allotted time, which I don't think is a problem because I don't think there's anything scheduled for right now. But unless there's anyone who'd like to give us a last testimony or tidbit, we'll probably sign off now. And I appreciate everyone's participation, and it was very nice to hear these testimonies and stories and to be with you at this virtual reunion. I'm very thankful to be a member of the family and join with you.
Yeah, the only thing I could add was that I saw the name Stout pop up there, and I just wondered to which Stout she was tied to, because there are several of them that are tied to my side of the family also. And Kelly Hunsaker, I could ask her if it's Abraham Hunsaker is the is the ancestor there too, because I see that name on anybody who has that name Hunsaker is usually tied to that one.
Yep, Abraham had 5 wives and 52 children, and so most of the church Hunsakers come through Abraham.
Okay. Sarah Stout just put here that I am through, the DeMille line, but I was asking about the Stout line. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna stop our recording now. We can continue chatting amongst. I'm not gonna. The room is still open, so you're welcome to chat. But I'll be stopping the recording and ending the official part of the session now. So thanks everyone for your participation.